Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, just a quick note before we get into this week's episode. From the start of April, I will be launching Not Another Newsletter. This will be a weekly email that will go out with client submissions of YouTube videos, shorts, articles, studies, things that they found beneficial that they feel like the rest of the wider We Hack Health community will benefit from. There's a link in the show notes to subscribe, and I hope to see you on the other side. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Ben Canning.
And I am Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Your Health Podcast. What's up, dude?
Hey, things are good, man. I just got a tire alignment, but most importantly, I think I've spent about an extra 40 hours on my camera situation here. It is getting out of hand, but I think I'm done. But I got it all automated, so I just have to say lights, camera, action. And it turns on all of my lights. It dims my light in my office, turns on all my cam lights, and then gets everything ready to go. And then I got the Elgato Stream Deck that I can switch between different settings if I'm sharing my screen or my screen plus camera and everything else. I got the lighting down perfect. It just looks really good, and it's becoming an obsession now. But I'm glad I'm glad.
Just
I did
another
it.
thing that you go all in on. There's no oh yeah, I'll just get the camera and put the thing on, and then it'll be done.
Well, it's also bled into my personal life as well, because this weekend I spent the entire weekend automating my house. So when I say it's bedtime, all my lights in my house shut off, all the doors in my house lock themselves, and then it arms the security system, and it shuts all the garages in the house. So it puts my whole house ready to go to bed. So it's so nice because all the kids leave every freaking light in the house open, of course. And so I've automated me having to go around and shut off the lights, which by the way means more time for lifting, right? So I've automated at least 10 minutes of work. That's 10 more minutes I can get back to lifting a day. So see how it works? It's just science.
It makes total sense. It makes absolute sense. And I mean, as I said to you earlier, I've automated the lights to turn on in this place. That's my first step. So I guess I got to get caught up with the rest. I will say though, the Stream Deck,
light's looking on point.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
The Stream Deck is absolutely awesome. What you can do and what you can automate and program in it is absolutely fantastic. Actually, I mean, a total side note on automation, I was talking to someone over the weekend about Zapier and automating stuff, and I feel like there's a whole new world of automation that I don't know about. So I guess I'm going down a rabbit hole on that one.
Well, it's, I've been looking at the difference between Alexa and Google, and I prefer Google more. It takes a while to get used to it, but I think the flexibility you have with Google is a little bit better. And there's something called, I think it's called IFTTT, which allows you to kind of do your own programming logic, which is very simple. It's more of an object-oriented programming language that's super simple to drag and drop things, that allows you to automate even more. So I found there's an issue with, so I had installed these cameras. So it's a camera / smart garage door. So I can open up the garage door wherever I'm at, but it also has camera detection motion sensors. And it integrates into Google Assistant, but it doesn't actually integrate into Google Home, which is where you need a button, to press. And then you can basically put what are called triggers to allow you to say hey, it's bedtime. And then this trigger then does these series of actions as you go through. Well, with something like IFTT, you can take the Google Assistant commands and basically allow it to convert over to a trigger that allows you to add all these different areas. So you can really customize what you want to do in your home. And I'm just, just tip of the iceberg. I mean, my grill now automatically starts up for me. I'm working on a bunch of stuff right now. So I'm I might not be able to do podcasts for the next month and a half as I automate my entire life. But then think about the time that I'll have now that I'm grill.
We'll be able to do a podcast every day because everything else will be automated.
then I can tie it into like Chat GPT, and then it'll automatically respond, for me and everything else. So I can just like, I can
just have a conversation with you.
I can literally just do podcasts all day and Lyft all day long. That's my goal, to automate everything here. So it's gonna be funny, because it's gonna make decisions on behalf of me of like, hey, should we do this really important thing that's gonna, decide the next 20 years of trust at SEC? And ChatGPT's like, yeah, that sounds great. Go for it. All right. So yeah.
AI Dave,
how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing good, man. I just getting ready. I realized that the timing of when this is going to come out is probably way off. But anyway, people will be able to catch up and understand what's going on. So I'm just getting ready to go to Munich tomorrow for an in-person client event. So I'm just trying to get that sorted. And I'm just back from Edinburgh yesterday, which was absolutely awesome, and a lot that I want to sort of unpack and go through in terms of that. Number one, it was cool to see, I think there were 70 coaches there for the event for Matt. And like, Matt is obviously someone who I spend a lot of time talking to, look up to within the industry, and have essentially seen his business grow into what it is. Whenever he started to Optimize Coach, obviously it was just an idea. And then to see, not all of his clients, but the majority of them sort of fly in and come into the one space and spend the day sort of learning and hanging out and just reinforcing the community and the tribe aspect of things, and just seeing that unfold and just seeing the whole thing. It just made me very proud to see it. So it was a really cool event. There was a lot to go through. Probably we'll be able to pick out a couple of podcast guests from the speakers, but yeah, I had a good weekend. Then we went there for steak, which was awesome. It's funny whenever you order a steak and two people order the sharing steak, and they look at you like, these are sharing, and they're like, yeah, we know, don't worry, it's one each. And then we went out to the comedy show, and then obviously I came back yesterday. So yeah, had a really good weekend. Just getting caught up with everything today to then leave again tomorrow for some more travel, but I'm looking forward to getting out and seeing the team in Munich. This will be the first time that you won't be there, which is kind of sad.
I know, I'm bummed. I wish I could be there. That'd be amazing.
Can you automate yourself to go on a flight?
See, yeah, that'd be. Hey, well, I do have a hologram of me. Actually, there was a conference we had where he made a hologram Dave, and it actually is a hologram of me. But then it mysteriously like disappeared after. We have no idea where it's at. It's like some storage somewhere. Someone stole it. Who knows? But so there's a hologram somewhere in the world of me that might make it there. You never know.
But yeah, no. Apart from that, I'm just getting ready for that. I'm looking forward to going and hanging out with the team. I realize that this will probably come out 2 weeks after I come back, but here we are. The power of timing and the internet, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, I mean, it's awesome that we're getting these done ahead of time, but also because, obviously your travel schedule is busy. I'll be going on vacation for a week here coming up, which is, good because my kind of maintenance calories at the moment are slight surplus. But interesting enough, I got on the scale today and dropped. Okay, I actually got to tell you this story because it's really awesome. So, I'd gotten a continual glucose monitor, and I went with a company called Level. So I looked at, I think there was Super Sapien, NutraSense, I think, and then Levels were the three that I kind of looked at. And NutraSense was really good. I think it's called NutraSense. Let me just double check that. So, Well, I'll find out in a second. But anyways, so what was interesting about what I liked about Levels was that it was very specific to like Whoop, kind of like the data that you get and like how they analyze your days. So how like Whoop is like strain and recovery. They also have like your basically your recovery for the day and how good your day was based off of your glucose levels and how much they spike versus non-spiking times. And it's been interesting to see because there are times where I feel either like total crap or I crash or especially in times where I eat like, high, very high, simple carbohydrate type stuff where I just feel like total, crap that, just a few, even into the next day sometimes. And so I wanted to get, continual glucose monitoring just to see what it looked like. And so this weekend, I decided to eat like crap. But in a sense of it's an experiment. But it was in the sense that I still stayed within my macros, but I ate crummy food instead. Okay. Now, I still hit my protein goals, and it was within moderation. So it was testing certain foods, not in high consumptions, but like I did a Wheatons day, for example. I did a pretzels day. I did a Doritos day. I did a pizza day where I had pizza at night. And I wanted to see, and I only had 2 pieces of pizza. And then, I had a protein shake before, and then I had 2 pieces of pizza. So it's all within, relative, non-crazy, type of things. But I wanted to see how my spikes in glucose performed. And what's interesting is my nightly ritual that I had before, when I would go and play video games, and I would have either, like a seltzer or, couple that with some like wheat thins and just pound, that shoots my glucose up like over 200. And it's interesting because I can feel it as soon as it starts happening. And you can see the crash usually about an hour later as I go from 200. In fact, so the way Levels works is it uses what's called a Dexcom, or Dexcom, which is the actual scanner that goes into your arm. And the Dexcom G6 is it's basically right back here. You can see it. It's got like a little black thing around, but the Dexcom is actually right in here. And it was actually warning me, because you have to use that at first to pair it, and then it goes into the data goes into Levels. It was actually warning me that your glucose is dropping so fast that, it actually gave me like a warning indicator. It's like beep, 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 beep. I was like, am I going to die? Am I dying here? Yeah. I'm like, what's going on? It was actually beeping at me. And so these foods, interesting that pizza didn't really spike my glucose up that much, because, it's mixed with fats and protein and everything else. So from a density perspective, while not healthy for you, didn't really have a major impact on my glucose. But things that were simple carbohydrates that didn't have anything like dietary fibers or protein or fats to kind of absorb into there shot my glucose up to like insane levels. So it's been very interesting to kind of play with that. Fruit doesn't actually have that large of an impact on my glucose levels, whereas breads absolutely do shoot my glucose up. So it's been good so far to kind of read it. And NutriSense was the other one. And the reason I picked Levels is because it is more like a Whoop data centric type of thing. Whereas I think if you're just starting off in this, NutriSense is better. It's more of a basic program, and you actually have a 1 month free trial of a nutritionist that will interpret your results for you. With Levels, you can hire a nutritionist. It's more expensive, and then they go through like your blood panels and your glucose stuff, continual glucose monitoring, and kind of recommend nutritionally what you should kind of focus on as far as types of foods and things like that. So I had my first consultation with a woman named Lauren here at the end of the month to go through kind of my CGM results. But it's been really cool so far to actually go through and use it. But I'm eating very healthy today, and you can actually see my glucose levels remaining pretty steady and consistent, sub 100. I think they're probably in the 70 to 80 range pretty much throughout the entire day. So it's been cool to kind of monitor what foods actually impact me and how I can actually change my diet to be more consistent on the levels of energy I have throughout the day.
Nice. I did I was half doing it whenever we were on the podcast last week, but I did apply for the beta test. It must not be available in the UK yet, but I did leave a note as the guy that I host a podcast with in the US, and he has his, and I would like mine. So hopefully I'll get it, and we can sort of correlate the data together and see. I think for me, again, it's just another data point. Like I said, the last time I used one, I probably didn't use it to the full capability or in the right way at all. But again, like you said, it's how can we optimize things and how can we avoid crashes, and just know that, okay, either I just avoid this type of food, or I know what's going to happen if I do have this type of food. I guess a side note on that is, obviously I mentioned last week about my blood work, and I just want to do a rough, the reason I want to go through it and mention it is because it's not good. Well, it's not bad, but it's not good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a read through it here, show you the points where I'm out of the range. And then what I'm going to do is make changes over the next 2 months, and then get it done again. And then we can sort of review, because I think it's all well and good us talking about blood work and doing this and doing that. But I think what this shows me is there's some things that I just wasn't necessarily consistent with, and my blood is now letting me know, which is cool, because I should have been. But obviously, okay, right, what does this actually mean, and what do I actually need to change to make it better? The 3 main ones that I want to talk about are obviously the vitamin D one. And we've spoken about vitamin D for the longest time. And truth be told, I just fell off the wagon with supplements altogether. I think I mentioned last week whenever I was away in Texas, and then the sort of 3 weeks after, which was just before I got my blood work taken, I hadn't really taken any supplements at all. So this is probably a good base level of just what I get from food and normal day-to-day life. So my vitamin D was obviously low because I live in Ireland. It's also winter, and I wasn't supplementing with it at all. It's a big deal. yeah. It was definitely below the range. So obviously the thing that I'm going to do to fix that is supplement with vitamin D. I do have this spray that I said last week, Nutrient, which is D3 and K2, but I am going to supplement with a vitamin D capsule as well. The other thing that was off was my LDL and my HDL cholesterol. And the only thing that I can sort of pinpoint in this, or think that could be the potential fix, is number one, don't spend 2 weeks in Texas and Phoenix all the time and eat like a total asshole. But number two, I wasn't supplementing obviously with omega-3s. And obviously I don't have the same level of input as you guys do in terms of somebody who can sort of give you feedback on your blood and whatever else, but they do leave a doctor's overview in it. And they do obviously mention as well, supplement with, they say, repeating the test in 68 weeks and supplement with omega-3s to help with the balance of LDL and HDL cholesterol, which I found was an interesting one. The last one that I'll talk about is obviously testosterone. So my testosterone, the ranges are obviously different over here because you're talking about hundreds and mine's 4.26. And I hope it's not that much of a difference. The range over here is 8.69 to 29 nanomoles per liter. And mine's obviously 4.26, which is obviously below the range. So the goal, I would say the reason this is, again, inconsistency with TRT dosing while I was traveling and whatever else. So obviously the fix with that is to, again, just be more consistent with that and across the weeks. So we will get the blood work done in about 8 weeks' time and having made those changes, and we'll see, has that actually helped and has anything else changed, and have the things that I have changed have had impacts on other metrics.
Yeah, I think, what's nice about this too is, you knew in certain cases where you may not have been consistent, especially like vitamin D intake, for example. And I also think that, we underconsume, even when we supplement with vitamin D, we underconsume it. I think it's like most people take like 5,000 IUs. I take like 10,000, sometimes 20,000, depending on how I'm feeling.
I was getting my weekly pill box together earlier on for travel, and I was doing the vitamin D capsules. And I brought in mind, I'm going to bring this spray away. And I was like, right, one capsule is 2,000 IUs, and it's like, take 3 a day. I was like, I'm putting 5 in, fuck it. So 5 went into every single one.
So vitamin D is very difficult to overconsume on, and it's like literally one of the best things you could probably take for, just mood and general feeling and, all that good stuff.
That's actually why I got that's why I got the blood work done, because I was like, whenever I got back the first sort of week, I was like, maybe I'm just like jet lagged or whatever else. And then the week after, I was like, I just don't feel right. Like I just didn't have the spring on my step at 5 a.m. whenever I was getting up in the morning. And I was like, I was stood here doing work, and then the armchair over there, I was like, I'll go and sit down for 20 minutes. Then I was like napping. I was like, this is not me at all. Like there's something definitely off somewhere. Yeah. And then obviously the blood, obviously vitamin D, even in that one could probably cause me to feel like that. But then that accompanied with testosterone being slightly on the lower end has definitely had an impact. So I'll be interested to see, in 8 weeks' time, am I not falling asleep over in the armchair over there? And I do feel a bit better. But it's a place that I've been before, and it's just something that I guess I let slip. And I think that that's probably an important note as well. Like, you can sort of just go through the motions with a lot of things, and, things can be like, oh, it's just that one thing, or it's just that one thing. And then the things start to slip here and there. So getting blood work checked regularly is definitely something that I would recommend doing.
Yeah, I think I like mine quarterly. I always have, just getting kind of a baseline. I think that's a good enough time and spacing to be able to make, minor changes that can see your LDL, HDL, levels increasing, decreasing, whatever, as well as, how you're kind of feeling and general mood. And I think it's enough time too to make the changes and see whether or not they make an impact, right? Especially from a supplementation perspective. I've been very fortunate on kidney liver. I've never had any issues with kidney or liver problems. I've never had issues with LDL, HDL, but you can definitely tell in certain areas like where I might be micronutrient deficient, and especially like vitamin D and things like that. So the supplementation aspect I think is important. And I always get asked, especially in the channels and things like that, like what are the, notice in your supplement stack, you don't, use specific multivitamins. I said, well, no, I don't use a multivitamin anymore. I specifically look at my micronutrient testing, and I just address the things that I'm not getting through my normal diet. In order for me to supplement those, in order to, with no need to supplement everything else. And there was actually something really interesting that I found out last week, which I'll get the name of the doctor here in just a minute, but I follow him very often on the podcasting side. And it wasn't Dr. Huberman for a change.
Or Dr. Andy Galpin.
It wasn't Dr. Andy Galpin. It wasn't Dr. Atia with the let's double click that. He hasn't done the double click in a long time,
Joe,
by the way. So I've been really happy.
I think he heard me. I was listening to, again, side note, the Diary of a CEO podcast that I listen to all the time had Matthew Walker, the sleep expert, on, which I would highly recommend everybody listen to that episode. But he said double click, and I was like,
I'm not ever listening to it.
He goes, double click. I was like, no. We don't do that right here. We're not double clicking anything right here.
Not allowed to double click that. No. It was Dr. Brad Stanfield. And I like some of his videos because he'll do like quick, 10 to 15 minute breakdowns. Like he just did one recently on metformin, which is now coming out. So there was longevity studies that were done on metformin. Specifically, there were people that had, type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetics, and metformin was always prescribed, and it showed to have massive longevity impacts where people were living longer. And well, that's probably true because, when you have type 2 diabetes, if you can get under control, you live longer versus, the impacts you have with type 2 diabetes and dying. But what they also had found was people that took metformin also had longevity impact without having type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetics. And that was an old study. It came, I think it was like 2018. And so everybody was using metformin, in the fitness and health industry for longevity. And all the latest studies that are coming out now are showing that metformin doesn't have the longevity aspects that it was induced. And people are recommending not taking it, obviously, if you're not pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes. And so, like this drug that everybody was claiming as being a longevity piece, is turning out to not be. And it actually looks to be detrimental to your health, where you might have longevity impacts because of that specific drug if you're not, again, in type 2 diabetes type situation. So he did a recent post or video. And if you look, he's got a great YouTube channel, Dr. Brad Stanfield. I listened to his podcast as well as he's got a Discord server too. I still been meaning to check that out, but he'll actually answer questions and stuff like that in there, which I thought was really neat. He said they avoid these popular supplements, and then he had, the damaging side effects. And one of the ones that he had mentioned that I had to go to my supplement drawer and remove was vitamin E. And that, I thought that was really interesting because vitamin E typically is associated with like, TRT and stuff like that sometimes, or, people will say, hey, take vitamin E, to help, with your skin and things like that. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's been linked to like vision, reproduction, health of your blood, brain and skin and everything else, as well as an antioxidant. And what he was explaining is that high copious amounts of vitamin E might actually be damaging to yourself, and that we get plenty of it through our normal dietary foods. So unless you're, heavily deficient in micronutrient wise of vitamin E, then you shouldn't be supplementing with it because it could have a negative impact on your health. And I think that's what you see a lot of things coming out now is that, hey, you don't need to, take copious amounts of these vitamins, maybe minus vitamin D, and still reap the benefits of those based off of what your diet is. So I don't actually attest to taking multivitamins anymore because I've been able to home in my micronutrients and what I eat on a regular basis that allow me to kind of isolate which vitamins that I may need that I might not be getting through my regular diet.
Yeah, just take the stuff that you need, and that might not essentially all be in the multivitamin, or there may be things that you don't want or don't need that are in it. I think that is, again, being able to be specific whenever you have blood work and sort of see what it is that you actually need, and not just taking supplements because you feel like you need to. The one thing that I will finish on this is the creatine levels were high, and the comment is your CK level is high, indicating having high muscle mass. Yep. Thank you, doctor. Thank you for that. Thank you for the compliment. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I think, for me, I just want to really dial things in and make sure that I'm optimizing things as much as possible.
Yeah. Now, one last thing I forgot to mention too is he also mentioned the 3 supplements he mentioned was metformin, vitamin E, and then resveratrol, which is commonly also tied to like NNM. So I also had to go to my drawer and get rid of that one as well because I use resveratrol and NNM together for NAD performance for ATP production. So NNM is very good. In fact, there's a lot of good studies coming out on that now around how NNM actually is bypassing that blood-brain barrier and providing brain benefits for NAD, which seems to decline as we age, which is a good thing. So. But yeah, I was like, okay, I need to remove those 2 from my list. I didn't do metformin, luckily. So, but the rest of them I definitely needed to.
But again, keeping up to date with the data and what's going on, like, and I think one of the big things, like, yes, okay, you can talk about all these researchers and studies for longevity, but realistically, how long have they been actually studying these things for to actually know, like, true length and true longevity? Like, what are the impacts, in 50, 60, 70 years? So,
well, I think that's the problem, right? Is that, these studies that come out don't look at long-term impacts, right? And that's why, like, TRT was very taboo for a while, because it was only heavily used in the bodybuilding industry and heavily abused, right? So you saw these folks, dying of heart attacks and strokes because they were riding massive levels of testosterone. But what it's showing now is that, moderate levels of testosterone within normal ranges, have some pretty substantial longevity impacts for men, and that we live longer because of that. And so, it's just, you just don't know. We know a lot about our bodies. Like, I was talking to my dentist today, which, if you notice, I have a little bit of a loopy or droopy side of my mouth here, because
I didn't notice. I thought it was just the lighting maybe has fixed it.
I had many injections in my mouth today to replace a cavity, but or a cap or whatever about filling. But the dentist was actually explaining to me how the layers that they put in now of your filling of your teeth actually replicate the natural fillings of your tooth, and the chemicals they use in it basically fortify and strengthen the way that a tooth does. And it's using the same type of, like, chemical compounds that basically allow your tooth to, stay healthy inside your tooth as well. Like, the science behind it is crazy. Like, just in a filling of a tooth, let alone, what is going on in our bodies, and understanding, different receptors and how they impact your body, and what's going on now with the GPL receptors for weight loss, with, all the different weight loss ones, with semaglutide and Moderna and all those other ones. But it's just crazy, because it's like, we're learning so much more about our bodies. We just don't know the long-term impact of it.
Agree?
Yep. Well, on to our topic.
So today I want to talk about Friday, essentially. And there are a lot of things. So Friday was Matt's event. And for context, the event was Matt, who, for anybody who doesn't know, is my friend who's a mentor. He mentors coaches. So essentially, the day, which is now known as the Get Shit Done Day, was for his coaches and for his mentees. Obviously, a lot of it is based around business and business development and business growth, and how to be a better coach and how to make more money, essentially, and whatever else. But I think a lot of the topics that were discussed, and a lot of the speakers that spoke, a lot of the things that we're saying are applicable to both business and health and fitness, and pretty much every aspect of life. So I think there's a lot of things that I took from it, and I just want to have a bit of a conversation, I guess, with you about it, and see what we can sort of dissect from it in terms of, like, life lessons and business lessons, and obviously, deep, and also how I can sort of relate to, what we're talking about here whenever it comes to health and fitness and whatever else. The first guy to speak was a guy called Gareth Timmins. He is an ex-Royal Marine Commando. He is the author of Becoming the 0.1% book, 34 Lessons from the Diary of a Royal Marines Commando Recruit. So essentially what he did was he kept a diary whenever he did his training. He didn't do anything with it for years, but he then wrote a book about the diary and the lessons that he learned. It's a really fucking good book, a mindset book. Like, it's no bullshit. It's not airy-fairy. It's just like, these are the facts, and these are the teachings from it. He also has a psychology degree, so there's a lot more to it than just the, like, airy-fairy lessons that he got from it. So we'd highly recommend that book. I do think that we will have him on the podcast. He has okayed it, so we just will have to find a time that suits both, which I think will be interesting, because obviously military backgrounders, I know there's a lot of listeners that do have military background, so I think there could be a lot of beneficial stuff in it. Two of the biggest things that I got from what he was saying and everything that he does. Number one, he told a story about, I'll not ruin it, because I assume he will tell it whenever he comes on the podcast, but about essentially being on a ship and pirates coming towards him, like crossing through Somalia. And I was like, he was telling the story, and I was like, I mean, I know the ending because you're stood in front of me, but fucking hell, I was just like, can't imagine being in that situation. But two of the biggest things that I got from what he was saying is consistency, which is something that we talk about all the time, and attention to detail. And his piece about consistency was being consistent in the things that he had to do day in, day out whenever he was going through his training. And obviously, the idea from what he was saying in the training is to sort of start to weed out the people who don't have what they need to be a Royal Marine Commando. And it was literally, just being consistent and doing the things that you said you were going to do, and just being consistent and showing up on even the days that you don't. And obviously, we've spoken about that time and time again. It's like, it's not, consistency isn't necessarily always wanting to get the win or always wanting to get the PR or the best week or the best business week or whatever else. Sometimes it's just about actually showing up and doing the thing. And that is the win in itself. So there was a lot of talk around that, and obviously, a couple of other speakers spoke about it after that. And I think I feel like it's something that we could develop on, because we've talked about consistency. We obviously had an argument about it live on the podcast last week. But yeah, that was one thing. The second thing was obviously the attention to detail piece, and it really made me laugh, because there are some things that I think that I've just done for a long time that I didn't necessarily do for a specific reason, but the more people that I speak to and the more things like this that I hear, and just the more that I do with work and whatever else, they become apparent that they're good things. And one thing that he did say was about attention to detail. And again, obviously from a military background, I would assume attention to detail is a big part of that. But I laughed and I sort of caught Matt's eye at the front of the room, because the whole day, every single detail was taken care of. Like on such a minute
that's great
scale, to the point where not everybody would even notice, but it's the satisfaction that the person, either me or Matt or whoever is creating the event, gets from going through all those details. And I think, again, attention to detail and what you're doing, whether it comes to health and fitness or whether it comes to business, I think is an important one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before in the past around the consistency aspects, and how your health relates directly to how well you're doing in life, business, professional, personal, all of those different areas. And the attention to detail in certain areas, I think, is really important. And, I always get asked, how do you fit all of these things that you do? You run, 2 big companies, you are always working in your fitness, you're always out there, with your family and your kids. And I said, yeah, but I'm no more busy than you in any way, shape, or form. I just have different responsibilities and levels of attention to detail to different things. We're all busy in what we do every single day. And, it's interesting because, one of the topics we're going to hit on too is there's no like real shortcut in life. Right. And, you'll see, and I used to think this way too, I would see like, somebody in the security business that just started a company and he somehow exits for like, $200 million. I'm like, wow, like how did that even happen? Like, that's insane, and I'm kind of jealous in one way, and second, I'm like, that's impressive, congratulations or whatever. But, those types of situations, whether it's somebody winning the lottery or somebody decided, the first week of when Bitcoin launched, they were going to put everything into it and then got out at a certain time and made, hundreds of millions of dollars. Those types of situations don't happen very often. And it's, again, like kind of winning the lottery. And I've met a lot of people throughout my career that are always looking for a shortcut. The first question they ask you about business advice is, well, how fast can I pump up my company before I can sell it to make money? I'm like, that's the wrong question to be asking, right? The question to be asking is, how can I make a quality product, make it good, and then eventually, if I decide, hey, I'm at a point in my life where I want to get out, or I want to do something different, maybe promote somebody to run it, that's a different conversation. And I think people are always looking for the shortcuts. We see this obviously within the health industry with various different diets and fads and cleanses and things to that effect, and different spins on ways of doing things from the get-go, because people want immediate, instant feedback results or whatever that is. They want to see it immediately. It's the same thing in our politics, in the news. Our society is impulsive in the sense of we want it right now. Like,
thank you,
something
Jeff
happens.
Bezos, for that one.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I have to wait more than one day for it? I'm not interested.
And I'm 100% guilty of that too, right? Like I'll be like, like I'll see the Amazon Prime thing and I'll see like now it defaults to like a normal shipping cycle. It's like, hey, do you want it next Thursday? But then you have a free option to send it today. I'm like, why would I not want it today? I don't need it by today, and I don't need it by next Thursday. Technically, I can wait a little bit longer, but I want it today, right? And so, the immediate gratification, immediate amount of information, immediate amount of making decisions while not even understanding, the details of things, I think is really become a major problem in our society, and obviously obesity being a major problem in our society, and so looking at how we correct that. there's no shortcut, and that's what concerns me. I think about the stuff with, the semaglutide and the tirzepatide, the Moderna, and the other one, Ozempic, where, it's being touted in the news as this massive, amazing weight loss drug. And it's gotten so much craze and hype that folks that actually need it for, I believe it's for diabetes, can't get access to it. So, it's interesting to see, the craves, and everybody's looking at this magic shot that you take once a week, which by the way is, and I should say, like, that it's amazing that we can do that, right? To hit our specific GPL receptors that say, hey, we're full now. And I think it's an amazing piece of science. But at the end of the day, it's a commitment to say, basically, you have to take this shot once a week, every day for the rest of your life, and be consistent with it. When you haven't been consistent with how you eat, how your lifestyle works, or anything else, are you going to be consistent with this one-time shot? And that goes back into the mindset and consistency aspect of things and discipline. But, most of these folks, are going to take it for, let's just say, 6 months. And like, I don't feel like taking a shot anymore. It's really not even working, even though I dropped, 20% of my body fat. And they're going to be like, okay, they're going to balloon right back up again. Because as soon as you stop taking it, you go right back to the same patterns of behavior. You're not fixing the root cause. It's no different than a diet, And again, if you can stick with keto for the rest of your life, that may be successful for you. If you can stick with, tirzepatide or semaglutide, it might be consistent for you. It might work for you. But if you're not getting down to the root cause of why you're there in the first place, you're not going to have a lot of success. And the same thing happens in the business side that I see all the time. People are always looking for shortcuts in business. Trusted Sec has taken me, 13 years or 12 years to get, to where it's at now. We're not even close to being done, right? We're going to go on for another 20, 30, 40 years and hopefully hand it down to my kids and our employees' kids and things like that, and have it keep going, right? We're going to be cybersecurity forever. Binary fence, I think it's 10 years. And we're just getting started, so it takes time to build success, and it's a matter of stacking those things on top of each other. And I've been talking a lot, so I'll pass back to you in just 2 seconds. But someone posed a question this weekend on why are companies like John Strand, for example, and Black Hills, and Dave Kennedy's company over at Trusted Sec highly successful when you see a lot of these companies that get VC investment and things like that really failing hard. And I think it goes down to, it's the long game for us, right? We went into this knowing that we could have gotten a VC investor to pump us, full of a bunch of money. And then now you're playing that, burn rate versus trying to get profitable, and you got to get another set of investments, and you keep moving up until, you've diluted yourself of pretty much all your shares, but hopefully you're worth enough that you can get an exit that allows you to make your money. But it's such a huge freaking gamble, right? Like, you're playing the lottery at that point in time versus, hey, I'm just going to hire a bunch of awesome people when I need them and continue to grow the way that I want to, control my whole thing, and every day be consistent with that and that mindset. And then eventually you have something that is obtainable and useful after years of working on it, right? And I think, again, relating that back to the health side of the house, we have to be consistent with what we're doing, whether it's nutrition, whether it's, your mindset and consistency of what you're going into, whether it's the strength training, whether it's, cardio. All of those things kind of have to be lockstep. And, it's not easy. It's difficult, but it's doable is the thing. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Anybody can build a business.
Yeah. That was how the day closed. So Matt left his bit to the end. And, the one big thing that he was getting across, and obviously remember the audience were, his mentees. Everybody wants the shortcut. Everybody wants what's the next trick that I can do to do less work but make more money? Like, how can I make this go faster? And the same with weight loss. Like, what can I do to speed up the process, or what pill can I take, or what do I need to start doing to make it go that little bit faster? And sometimes it just comes down, Matt's point was, sometimes it just comes down to just showing up consistently and doing the fucking work, and actually just being good at what you do. And whether that is attention to detail, or whether that's just giving a fuck about the people that you work with, these things will have a lot more longevity. And yes, okay, you might not have the quote unquote overnight success or whatever it is that you're looking for, but you have a lot more longevity in your company. And I would imagine you're talking about your companies with investments and stuff like that. To me, sort of, you lose the amount of fucks that you give about it in a sense, because, you know, you're not necessarily, it's not all riding on you, if that makes sense. You know, you've got other people involved and, you know, there's other opinions and whatever else. But, you know, whenever it's you and you're building the company by yourself and you put absolutely everything into it, you're going to work harder and work more on it because it's all,
That's right.
It's all on you. So Matt's point was, you know, sometimes you just have to get your head down and put the work in. And again, like, I think that's one of the reasons that with him and I and you, and you've had the conversation, you know, you've spoken to him, like, you know, there's definitely a lot of similarities in terms of, like, sometimes you just actually have to put your head down and put the fucking work in. And it's not about shortcuts, and it's not about any tips or tricks to how to, you know, skip this or fix whatever needs fixed, like how to make things quicker or how to make things easier. It's just actually, you know what, this is the point where I need to put the work in. And I think it was a reminder to a lot of people in the room that they were like, you know what, it is just sometimes about putting the work in. And I think that goes across the board too. You know, even if we relate it back to what Gareth was saying, you know, he talked about that as well. Like, he just showed up and had to do the work. You know, he said it sucked, which I imagine it did from some of the stories that he tell, but he was there to do a job and he had to do it. So yeah, I think hard work is often overlooked, but I do think that if you are consistent and you do work hard, you definitely will be successful in whatever it is you do.
Well, I think it's that belief system in yourself that, you know you the best. And if you go in on something, and I was actually, my nephew was in the car with me yesterday, and it was actually a fun trip because my daughter was playing volleyball at a tournament in Eastlake, which is, you know, kind of the other side of the house of Ohio here on the east side of Cleveland. And it's kind of where I grew up at. And in right around there is a Micro Center, which is probably the most amazing computer store you will ever experience in your entire life. I mean, you can build a computer from the ground up there. They have every single nook and nanny tech thing that you can ever possibly imagine. It's like a Best Buy just for building your computer, and then like everything else around there, you know, sound and audio, you name it. It's huge. And I hadn't been there in quite a long time. And I used to be where I grew up at, so I used to spend a lot of time over at Micro Center, like building my own computers and things like that. So I got to bring my nephew there. And, you know, he's looking at getting into cybersecurity. And he had asked me the question. He's like, hey, Dave, it just seems so overwhelming to get into cybersecurity because of all the stuff that you know and stuff like that. I said, Con, you know, dude, I'm 40 years old. You're 17. You know, like you got some time. You know, there's a little bit of time there to figure things out. But know that you're not going to know everything overnight about what you do. But what has made me successful is going all in on something and immersing myself into it to where it becomes a hobby, like I have with my health, like I did with bourbon, like I did with, you know, my companies, like I did with cybersecurity, starting a conference. You know, these things are things that you know you don't know how to do at first, and your mind will actually fight new things. It's just how we're designed. So our minds are used to basically doing the same things that we do every day because it's working, right? We're alive, we're healthy. Why would we need to do anything else? And our brains really think that way. And it makes sense, again, from a tribal aspect and going back, you know, hundreds of thousands of years. You know, we had people that went out and hunted. We had people that, you know, made, vases and, you know, iron and things like that, or built houses or whatever it was, or wood choppers, you know, so you kind of had your own tribal thing that you focused on within your community to make that community successful. So why do we need to switch to a bunch of other things to go and do? So your brain will initially fight you, whether that's fitness training, whether that's something new that you're introducing in your life. And it's painful. I remember a story where, you know, this was, this probably would have been 2006 or 2007, maybe 2007. But Microsoft had introduced what was called data execution prevention, which is a method for stopping exploits from happening in memory. And there was some kind of articles in place that talked a little bit at a high level on how you can get around it, but there wasn't a lot of like good documentation around how to get around data execution prevention at that time. And it's a topic that I didn't understand very well. And I was getting really into exploit research. And I remember the first time I ever studied it, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm never going to figure this out. This is just for super smart people. And there's no way that I'll ever figure this out. And I remember the stages of emotion, because it reminds me every time of it, you know, like when I hit this certain block where my mind's like, you're not good enough to do this. And I said, screw you. I'm going to, you know, go through this, and I'm going to go through all this pain and suffering to figure it out. And somehow I'm going to figure this out. And it took me some time, but once I figured it out and my brain could understand all the stuff that I've been studying, and it took, a month and a half basically of me researching things to write the first, write one of the first exploits that basically got around data execution prevention. And, it was one of those things where it was a culmination of frustration, sorrow, anger, everything else that went into it. But my brain fought me all along the way saying, you're not good enough. The truth of the matter is you are good enough and you can do it. You just have to tell your brain something different. And so, you look at that throughout your life. And I was talking to Con about this, and I was like, hey, listen, when you get into this, you have a good period of time while you're young to immerse yourself in cybersecurity. I said, hey, don't let it get out of control. Still live your life, but make cybersecurity your hobby and go all in on it and learn it and understand it. And that will put you leagues above everybody else that is in this industry. Most people in this industry, once they get to a certain level, they're good and they kind of tap out and they're good at that level. They don't kind of, elevate themselves. But then you see certain folks that, that just have an amazing knack for research or red teaming or, on the blue side, writing, tools that help protect. And that puts you a notch above everybody else. Right. And I said, that's the difference between, going to your job day in and day out and then becoming one of the top people in your job that people, look up to for the next generation of people coming into this industry. So, it's about immersing yourself into what you're doing. And that's why I really found a knack with this fitness stuff. It was like a whole new area that you had shown me, around stuff that I didn't understand. So I had to, dive deep into what that meant. What were macros, what were micronutrients, what were, caloric intake and total daily energy expenditure, basal metabolic rates, fat percentages, hypertrophy, time under tension and tempo. There's so many different parts that actually make up all of this that, it required my full attention and hobby to go into this, to make it my hobby, to be successful in it, to curb those changes, to change myself in a different way to allow me to be successful. And I think that's the key to life in general, is that if you're not interested in something, then why are you doing it in the first place? And for me, if you're going to work every day and you hate your job, why are you going to work? Don't go. Go somewhere else. Move somewhere that appreciates you, that wants you and your expertise, where you can make a difference and it motivates you to better yourself. Same thing for fitness. If you're doing fitness and you just absolutely hate it, try something different that excites you. I know certain people that will not go in the gym, but they love like Orange Theory, or they love boxing, or they love, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's so many different options to stay healthy and fit. It doesn't have to be always hitting the gym and being a gym rat every single day. It could be whatever excites you and motivates you. You just got to find that and then kind of go all in on it and be part of your hobby. I think it makes it so much easier for you to be successful in those areas if you're committed to it.
Yeah, and I think one point that sort of Matt expanded on, it's about falling in love with what you do, no matter what it is. His point was you almost like fall in love with the things, like the boring task. And actually, I held my hand up and I was like, there's a lot of things now, not that I complain a lot, but when you'll know yourself. Whenever you have a busy day,
definitely complain a lot.
Yeah, only about like that. It's yourself whenever you have a busy day and you look at all the stuff you have to do, you're like, holy shit, like how am I ever going to get through this? And I sort of had a bit of realization, and I was talking to a lot of his mentees there, and it was cool to sort of have spoke to them in September, sort of see where I was at then, where they're at, and the sort of difference. And it's like, even the stuff that I deal with now, like this was the goal 6 months ago. Do you know what I mean? Like the things that I'm almost complaining about now was what I wanted to achieve. And it was that sort of reminder as like, what would Ben from 5 years ago, who was working on the gym floor, think about what I'm doing now? Do you know what I mean? Like, we'll go into Munich tomorrow to host a client event, like having this podcast, like there's no way I could have even comprehended it. So it's that sort of reminder about falling in love with what you do, and whether that is business or work or health and fitness or whatever else. Like, I think that is an important part of it. You talking about the belief and the conversations you have for yourself. One of the other speakers was a girl called Kira from Dublin. I'll link all these people's social media somewhere. Her tag is the Mindset Coach IRL. I assume that's for Ireland, not in real life. But yeah, she talked a lot about the thought process, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your results, essentially. And I've said before, like, the narrative that you have about yourself and the narrative of the things that you tell yourself will become the reality. And I sort of remind myself on this quite a lot. And we talk about it in terms of like almost like identity shift. Like you can sort of rewire your identity based on the things that you tell yourself and the stuff that you do, essentially. So, you know, her piece was about the way that you think, or the sort of internal dialogue that you have for yourself. So if it is a case of, I'm overweight, I'm always going to be overweight, I've always been this way, there's nothing I can do about it. If you continue to tell yourself that, then yes, that will be your reality, because that will feed into your feelings, which will feed into your actions, which will feed into your results or lack of results. Whereas if you sort of change the narrative on that and change the, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm a person that comes to the gym, and you potentially, I don't know whether you pick up on it as much as I do within the sort of client community, but you sort of see the time where people change is when they start, they go to the gym because they want the result. Like they go because they want to lose weight or gain muscle or get fitter or get faster or whatever it is. It's like they do that thing for that result. But if you sort of take out the I go to the gym because bit, like take out the reasoning, and it's just that I go to the gym or whatever it might be, you make it part of your identity, and you make it, I go to the gym because I'm a person that goes to the gym. Like it's the same whenever we talk about going on vacation or going on holiday. Like, whenever people used to be like, I can't believe you were only away for 3 days and you were at the gym twice. I'm like, I am a person that goes to the gym. Like it is what I do day in, day out whenever I'm at home. Like why would I change it as part of my identity? So why would I change it just because I'm in a different location? So her piece about mindset was absolutely awesome. And a couple of sort of tangents in it. And the funny thing that I sort of I guess it was thought provoking for me. And it was it was about being able to sort of have conversation on a deeper level. And even, whenever I was talking to her afterwards, it was the usual, I really enjoyed your talk, could have ended it there, but, it was superficial. I was I wanted to actually tell her what I got from it. And I think that in itself, and being able to have that sort of deeper level of conversation with someone it was more valuable than just saying that was good, I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was thought provoking. It sort of gave me an understanding of behavior patterns and thoughts that I've had before. And she did a good piece on confident people versus not confident people and what the difference is. So yeah, it was very interesting. But long story short, it's about what you believe in yourself and the narrative that you write for yourself. So even the simple as, and I've talked about this before, whenever I sort of try and regain control of things or discipline, whenever it's I'll not pick my phone up. My urge is always to pick my phone up, but I stop myself from doing it, or the snack cupboard or whatever it is. And it's are you going to be the sort of person that if you have a box of wheat thins at the weekend, does that mean it's just going to totally derail your progress? Are you going to wake up and be quote unquote fat Dave again? No, absolutely not. But it can have the potential to rewrite the narrative of how you think about yourself. And you're well, I had them last week, I could just have them next week. And that's a hard thing to control. And it's an easy thing to lose control of.
Yeah, the losing control aspect is where I failed, time and time again. And I had no issue this weekend eating that, knowing that I'd be right back on the train again, because I have that confidence in myself now, because I have the control. And, I did it within reason, right? I stayed within my macro counts. I didn't go over. And it was a decision because I was doing, continual glucose monitoring.
It was an experiment.
It was an experiment.
Doing it for science.
Interesting enough. So I weighed in before I did this weekend at 229, and I showed up today at 226. So I dropped, 3 pounds. So
science,
whatever, science works. Who knows? But, it's interesting to see, the struggles I think that we all face in all of this, because everybody's life is different, whether it's when we wake up, when we go to work or school, when we go and see family and friends. And again, we all get occupied with our surroundings. And so if your surroundings are, hey, I go to the bar with my buddies every day and I just get, a burger and some fries, well, that's going to be a hard habit to break, right? Because you're already socially part of that. And so you have to look at those lifestyle changes of how do I, do this? And I always get asked the question too of how do I get my spouses or, my kids involved in this? Because I feel like, they're always cooking these great meals and I have to eat it and all this other things. The truth of the matter is that, I think health is contagious in many ways, especially when people start to see success. And I know it was for my family. Actually, after our podcast today, I've one quick call, and then my son and his best friend are coming over to my gym, and I built them, three programs, full body workouts that they're going to be doing per week, to get them more into resistance training, which is great. And they're not going to be happy. I'm going to murder them in a good way. Like, obviously, not seeing them.
Yeah, run the rack. We're going to do run the rack.
Yeah, run the rack and do some. I'm going to make them feel some pain there in that one. But it's going to be so much fun. I got to be careful though, because obviously I don't want to push them too far and be like, I'm never going there again, right? But definitely want to put them through the ringer a little bit and show them some good stuff. But it's contagious, and the same thing goes for business or success in life. You surround yourself with people that have the same type of I guess worldview or way that you look at certain things around you. Like at Trusted Sec, we have some amazing leaders, but we all share the same concept of always doing the right thing and having a great team and hanging out with friends and things like that. Always the best interest. So you surround yourself with good people typically in many cases, and you kind of cut out the ones that aren't. And I think fitness is the same way. You kind of have to surround yourself either with people that have share kind of the same beliefs around fitness or what you want to accomplish, like i.e. a partner, or eventually become that person that people want to be around, to surround yourself with, to kind of have your own tribe around health and success. And you see that with families where you have a lot of success with people that may have had unhealthy lifestyles, and their spouses come along, their kids come along, or their husband comes along, and start to go on that same bandwagon because they see the success of you. So success breeds other people wanting success as well. And so when you have that, people always look up to you because you've had that success in that area that they never had before. So you're obviously doing something different or right that they don't have. And those are the things that can be very impactful for people to get you into that success. But, again, there's no shortcut to any of that, right? There's no bypass method to get around, you neglecting your body for 20 years. It's just one of those things that you have to focus on day in and day out to get you to the point where you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And even, you saying there about wanting to be the person that people look up to in that area. Like I remember very clearly before we started this podcast, having a conversation with Martin in his old office. And we were talking about, me sort of moving into this space in terms of like InfoSec and cybersecurity, and it was like, just create the room. So then obviously I sent you a message. Do you want to, co-host a podcast with me, thinking this will be take a chance on this one. And you were like, yeah, I would love to. And then now we're here, we've created the room. We have the Discord, we have the hashtag, we have, people who are literally changing their lives just because, we created a space to allow it to happen. And the environment obviously plays a big part in that. The community plays a big part in that. And again, to sort of like re-emphasize seeing the team of people and the community of people that Matt put together, and how they're so in tune with each other and so willing to help each other as well. Because I think that's, maybe this is just a fitness industry thing, but, in the fitness industry, it's always very much like, no, I'm keeping my secrets for myself because I don't want you to know how I help people lose weight. I'm like, it's not a fucking secret. Like, it's on the internet. Everybody can access it. Like, that is not what it's about. Yeah.
But it's like the proprietary blends you get in pre-workout. Like, listen, you just have a different mixture of caffeine and beta-alanine. Let's just be honest. All right.
Yeah. It's a secret, top secret formula. Yeah, shut up, whatever. But yeah, being able to see everybody work together. And one of the guys, Will, really, really nice guy. It was the second time I met him, but in his speech, the one thing that he did that was slightly different is he got everybody engaged, and it was about using your story. So like, your origin story essentially is the why he ended up. He sort of talked through his and he sort of mapped out 8 boxes, and he got everybody to write in the boxes, like, he did 4 key moments in your life that you feel like sort of put you where you are, shaped where you were. And then he says, right, we're going to get everybody to turn to the person beside them and talk about it, which is like, it's a vulnerable thing. You're like, shit, right, okay, like, but the difference in the energy in the room, and that was one thing that really stood out to me. It's like people were willing to just immerse themselves into it. And sure, now I was sat beside Matt's wife Sarah, and she hadn't obviously written anything down because she was controlling the times of it. And I was like, guess I'm just going to speak to you for 3 minutes then. So I just laid it out all on the table for her. But yeah, just the community side of things. But I think, to sort of wrap things up, I guess the what I took from it is there's so many, I guess, qualities that are transferable skills to business or to work or to relationships or to fat loss or training or whatever it is. And if you can start to nail those in one area, I guess it comes back to the discipline that your training and nutrition teaches you will filter into every other aspect of your life. So living a better quality of life by taking control of the things that you do, the people that you hang around with, your environment, your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, all those things, like you are in control of it.
And I think the control aspect is one that people struggle with there, right? I mean, maybe it's not control, but maybe the word I'm looking for is accountability. And I think when I look back at my times, in my 20s and 30s, I had no clue what the hell I was doing. I thought I did, right?
Do you think now, though, now we I think I know what I'm doing now. We're going to look back in 10 years and go, whew, boy, oh boy.
Well, it's interesting because, I look back at young Dave starting Trusted Sec. And, what's interesting about that was, I was, how old? I was 27 or 28 when I started Trusted Sec. Right. And, when I look back at my time there, I had a successful career. I was doing very well. I was able to, pay my bills. I was able to, feed my kids. I was an executive of a company at 28 years old, in a Fortune 1000 company as a chief security officer. All these things were locking into me. And why did I start, a company? That makes no sense to me now. Right. And I mean that in a sense of I don't know if Dave today would do what Dave of yesterday did, but at the same time, Dave of today wouldn't have done the investment in health and fitness that Dave of yesterday would have done. So when you look at those comparisons, every part of our life is a different experience and journey that gets us to where we want to go. And I really look at it from the sense of, I'm glad Dave of yesterday was who he was, because without Dave of yesterday, I wouldn't be here today. And I can say, well, Dave of yesterday didn't focus on, his health, but that's fine because Dave of today does. And so it doesn't mean that what you did before in the past is what you do today or vice versa, but it means you can change and you can do something different to impact your life in a positive way. And I look back at, all of the times that I failed or, it was a tough situation or whatever. What I knew is that I would have success in whatever I did because I believed in myself. And again, that immersion into what I'm doing, the immersion into focusing on, myself in various different ways. I those are all things that make a big difference. Right. And you can absolutely be successful regardless of what age you start at. But it's a matter of you taking the risk in yourself and then having the belief in yourself that you can actually go and do it. And, it's no different in business or health or anything else that you're doing. So, to me, it's always interesting to look back at times, especially go even earlier when I was in my, teenage years, 18, 19, 20, 21, where I was in the military and I was in war, in another country where bombs are dropping all around me. I'm like, for F's sakes, what was I thinking? Why was I doing this? Why did I want to get shot at? I'm in Iraq. I'm like, hey, this is amazing. I'm in war, No, that's effing crazy, dude. You're in 2 wars, so you look back at your experiences, you're like, I cannot believe I did that. That's insane. But, but those experiences forge who you are today. Those experiences make you what success you've built, regardless of what that is. If it's a family, if it's, success in your job or career or success in friends, those make a big difference in everything you do. But it's the time that you put into it that makes that a success, right?
For sure. And, I've said this time and time again, it's just because it's always been that way doesn't mean it always has to be that way. And I think back to, I think this was a very recent observation. I used to always see pictures of me out drinking and just acting like a complete pisshead. I almost be a little bit ashamed. But I think within the past year or so, I looked down and was like, you know what? I had a lot of fun. It didn't hurt anybody. Nobody died. I had a good time, and I wouldn't be me now if I wasn't for Ben then. So there's no regrets around it. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of lessons that I took from those times, and there's a lot of people that I was introduced to, and whatever it might be, all of those moments, all of those times, everything that sort of happened led me to where I am now. And there could have been any number of those things that could have been slightly different that wouldn't have led me to be where I am now.
So closing on this, I have to check because I'll call in 2 minutes, but I want to close on some Jocko. Okay, so here's a short
the button again. The piano's going to come
press out. Press the button, and hopefully this works. With my new setup here. But let's listen to some Jocko about shortcuts.
Because I think any person, any human realizes that if you want some kind of a good outcome, you're going to have to work hard for it. and if you don't work hard for something, you're not going to get an outcome that's really worth much.
Is that
it's short,
Linkin Park in the end? Acoustic version played the piano going on in the background?
I think it was. Yeah.
Good. I want
everything that you want success in requires work. Right?
Agree.
And that's the gist of today.
Agree.
So thank you all for listening for us today. Check us out on various social media platforms, Twitter, Discord, everybody else, We Hack Health. But we always appreciate our listeners, and I hope you found this useful. And share with your other friends, families, folks. Things are looking to make a change, and we all appreciate you listening day in and day out. And we'll catch you all next week.
See you next week.